Thank you. We're going to call to order our first hearing of the Board of Appeals. This is the November 18th hearing at 7:30. This is the application of Amanda Johnson and Stephen Serio on file with the board, and they're seeking a special permit to basically house more than one unregistered automobile and more than 5 registered automobiles on the premises, which requires a special permit under the Milton zoning bylaw. The premises are located at 995 Brush Hill Road in Milton. My name is John Leonard. I'm chairman of the Board of Appeals. With me this evening to my immediate left is board member Nicholas Gray, and to my immediate right is board member Emmanuel Alves. The rules of the board are such that we'll hear from the applicant, then we'll hear from any person present who wishes to ask questions of the applicant or the applicant's attorney, and then we'll hear from persons who want to speak in favor or in opposition to the application for special permit. We're tape recording the proceedings this evening. As always, that's the official record of the board. This is a rather large room. The acoustics are terrible, so we'd ask that before anyone speaks, tell us your name and address so that we will know who is speaking. And if we have to revert to the tape in order to write a decision, that'll make it easy. And we'd ask that you speak up nice and clear and loud so we'll have an accurate recording of the meeting. I'll summarize the advertisement. In addition to the ad, as part of the evidence at the hearing, we have the application, which is dated 9/21/2015. We have a denial letter by Building Commissioner Joseph Prondak. It's dated September 14, 2015. We've got a series of plans showing the proposed addition or the proposed garage in relation to the subject property. They're prepared by Boston. This one is a site plan prepared by Boston Survey, Inc. It's dated September 11, 2015, and it's signed by George C. Collins, a registered professional engineer. And we also have some plans from AB Architects of Elmore Street in Arlington, Massachusetts. It's in multiple sheets, and it shows the first floor construction, the roof plan, the exterior elevations of the property. And we have 2 sheets, I guess, of exterior elevation, so we thank the applicant for submitting those. We also have an addendum which Mr. Corcoran usually files with all of the applications where he represents the applicant. He describes the exhibits, the requested relief, a discussion of the pertinent issues, and Mr. Corcoran's conclusion as to the relief that should be awarded to the applicant. So with all of that as a rather long preamble, the applicant is being represented by Attorney Ned Corcoran, who lives in Milton but practices in Quincy, I believe. You're still in Quincy, Mr. Corcoran?
Still in Quincy, yes,
Okay,
sir.
great. Well, it's good to see you again. Welcome back to the Board of Appeals. We're delighted to hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. It's a pleasure to be here. I am joined by Stephen Serio, who is the applicant, lives at 995 Brush Hill Road, and his architect, Anthony Butler, who has designed the garage.
Good. Welcome to the Board of Appeals, gentlemen.
Thank you. And this is a special permit under the accessory use provisions of the bylaw. It's interesting to note that the garage structure itself, as designed, is permittable, and he could secure a building permit.
It's compliant.
Tomorrow. It's fully compliant with zoning as an accessory, as an unattached, a detached accessory structure. The issue is the notion that Mr. Serio, who is in the foreign auto business but owns and collects historic cars and desires to be able to store them here on his property as opposed to pay to store them elsewhere. And so the garage is designed really to mask the presence of those vehicles, to provide safe storage, and to mask the visibility of those vehicles from abutting properties and from the neighborhood. I think the garage itself is designed tastefully. It's set back. As you can see, it's designed to go, if this is Walcott Road and this is Brush Hill Road, it's designed to go in this corner. It's surrounded by fencing and reasonably dense plantings. They will relocate a gate that's in this area here, is the, sort of the front yard. There's a gate here that would be relocated to create a new sort of courtyard entry.
Do you need a curb cut permit for that, or is that,
I don't think so.
you can do that as a matter of right?
Right. And it is opposite, what's interesting, it's opposite a detached garage on property across the street. I think on the aerial that I provided from the town's GIS website, there's a dwelling and a detached garage here. So it's a very similar structure to what is already across the street and.
How many
in the neighborhood.
how many vehicles does the garage across the street house?
Looks like it may house 3. I can't,
Three.
I didn't.
Okay, it's at least
didn't
3.
test it, Yeah. And it's designed also to be, there's a common green space along the common border here. There's a swimming pool back here on the abutting property. So it's designed to be sort of away from the living area and whatnot. So Mr. Serio has made an effort to canvass the neighborhood. We do not have letters of support, but there was no objection from anyone that we're aware of. And so with that, I would ask the board if it has any other questions and open it up.
You know what the purpose of the bylaw is, limiting the number of registered and registered cars?
I think it's probably to prevent use of vehicles for business purposes. You know, you can, maybe in some of these larger estates, properties in town where larger families, the ability to at least have a number of vehicles that would be used by 3, 4, 5 people in a family. But to have more than that, I think there's a concern that you would be turning into some sort of a used car lot or, you know, some other use that's reliant on the vehicles themselves. And you know, this it even says that you're not allowed to have a single unregistered vehicle.
Well, you can have one, can't you?
Well,
Can
maybe
you have one?
one, but,
I think you can have one.
I think if you wandered around town, you might find a few.
I can think of a couple.
So
That must
I
be
think,
near Mr. Gray's residence.
and I think is, you know, Mr. Prondak, when he was first reviewing the plans, just thought it better safe than sorry to seek the permit. He said, this is probably something that, you know, I'm not going to look for, others wouldn't look for, but this is the right way to do it, is to seek the permit. And so, you know, here we are.
Well, particularly, this looks like a fairly substantial garage, probably with a lot of security aspects to it, and pumping that kind of money into that type of edifice and finding you don't have the right permits is not good form. Let me ask you, other than the 6 vehicles, which I'm not going to ask you to describe, just for security reasons, I guess, there would be 3 other vehicles maintained on the premises that would be outside of the garage, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And is it also true that, Mr. Serio, you're not going to be buying and selling vehicles from the garage, or that, no commercial use?
For that in Waltham.
Sure. Okay. So you're not going to be selling tickets for people to go in and view your cars or all of that?
Fewer people that know about it, the better. And actually, to be clear, the other 3 cars would be parked, 2 of them would be parked in the main house, because there's a garage in the main house, and then if we have one that's outside, that would be it.
Oh, that's helpful. I didn't realize that. I thought the 3 were going to be
No, the 2
outside.
will be inside, and the rest will be in the back.
Okay, great. Let me see if my colleagues have any questions. Mr. Gray?
I don't think so. At
Okay.
least not yet.
And Mr. Alice?
Just a couple. Wait a minute here. So if the board approved this, the limit would be up to 9. Is that? Okay. And the neighbor on Walcott, is it street or road? Road?
Walcott Road.
Road. Whose property would be directly facing the gate going into the garage? Is that one of the people you spoke with and was in agreement with the proposal?
I didn't speak with them. I rarely see them in their house. To be honest, and this is going to sound a little silly, I can't even tell you how to get to their house because of the way it's so far back on the property. I haven't lived there for 10 years. and I don't know how they get into their house or come out of it because I never see them, and they've got multiple entrances. So it's all fenced and gated, and again, without sounding glib, I don't know which gate to knock on to go try to find the house.
I think their frontage, they have frontage on Walcott, but they enter via a private way that comes in off of Brush Hill Road. And it serves a number of different houses in there.
And I think I heard you say that the gate to the proposed garage will be similarly facing a gate to a garage.
Correct.
Got it.
One of the photos that I submitted, I think the last one, shows the gate that's directly across the street from the gate. That is looking into the
That's the neighbor's property?
neighbor across the street.
Got it.
And you can see in the foliage, through the foliage to the right, that's the garage on the neighbor's property. On the large aerial that I provided from the town's GIS website, you can also see across the street, the house, and across the street, the garage. They're on separate recorded lots, although it appears from this that there might be a setback issue if they were to break that out into separate ownership. But their right-of-way,
Oh, yeah, Mr. Corcoran.
well, it could be, but the right-of-way, you can see, comes in there, and there are, I think, 5 or 6 separate dwellings that are served by that right-of-way.
One last question, is Walcott Road, is that a one-way street or a two-way?
No, it's 2. It goes back to St. Pius X Church.
Yeah, okay. I have no further questions.
Okay, great. Let me see, is there anybody who has any questions of the applicant or Attorney Corcoran? Okay, the record indicates no such person is present. Is there anybody present this evening who'd like to speak in support of this special permit application? And there's no such person present. Is there anybody present who wishes to speak in opposition to this application for a special permit? Okay, thundering silence. There's no such person present. So, Mr. Corcoran, unless you have something else to add, do you want to sum up, or are you content to rely on your presentation?
I will rest on my presentation and leave it to the board. Thank you
Okay.
for your attention.
Okay, that's great. So we'll close the evidence at the hearing. We're required under the open meeting law to discuss the application in open session and vote on it, and we intend to do that here and now. So, Mr. Gray?
Well, it seems to me from Mr. Corcoran's presentation that we're not so much, since the garage can be built as of right, and we're not really here to worry about whether it's set back properly or whether it's, it can be built. The main, I think, main idea is to, would there be any adverse impact from having so many vehicles stored on the premises? And it seems to me that since, given the topography of that area, that they're going to be, it's going to be behind a fence. It's not going to be, the fence is staying?
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So it's not as if we're going to be looking at, your neighbors or passersby are going to be staring at 9 vehicles lined up on the lawn. It's going to be, they're going to be enclosed inside in the garage most of the time. I think I don't see any particular problem with it. So I think I would be in favor of voting for the special permit.
Mr. Alves, please.
I agree. And I do think that there's no opposition, no expressed opposition, and the proposed location of the garage is basically where the neighbor has her own garage. And I agree with everything Mr. Gray said, that this is not about the positioning of the garage itself, it's just a number of cars. And I too had a question about the purpose of this bylaw, and I think Mr. Corcoran's point is well taken, that it's to avoid sort of commercial-type activities in residential premises. So that's not what's intended here, so I too would be inclined to vote in favor of the application.
Okay, well, my view is I thought the application was very well presented, very thorough application by Mr. Corcoran. I think the garage looks terrific. It's just a beautiful garage that's going to fit in very well with the neighboring properties. You probably won't even recognize it as you're driving by. The lot's a large lot. It accommodates the garage easily. To me, if I was a collector of cars such as this, I'd certainly want them on my property and not off-site. And it's being, really, it's just the housing of these vehicles. They're probably taken out for a parade or some event, but it's not going to get a lot of heavy use. They're not going to be selling tickets or showing the cars or having parties in there or anything like it. I think it's going to be very tasteful. I don't think it poses any harm whatsoever to neighboring properties, and we're not setting any adverse precedents here. Really, out of the 9 vehicles, the house is a very large house. At least it's a respectably large house. It's 9 vehicles, but only 3 of them are being used. 2 of them can be garaged right in the house. So there's only 1 car being parked outside, and you drive up Canton Avenue, we're going to see more cars and garages than you want to see. So I think this is a well-presented application. It has merit, and I intend to vote for it as well. So all those in favor of granting the special permit as requested by the applicant?
Aye.
So congratulations on your
Thank you.
special
Thank you,
permit. I
gentlemen.
usually make a
Thank you very
speech about recording these special permits, but Mr. Corcoran can take care of that. The only real question that I do have is one of timing. When I woke up this morning, I think we're starting the winter season. And my question is, you intend to build this in the spring, or so you don't have any immediate need? You don't have contractors out on the road ready to build?
No, we don't. I wish we did, but we couldn't get this finished in time to start now. There's no sense in doing it now. So really, when the frost breaks in the springtime, that's when we would start doing it.
Okay, that's great. So we'll crank this out in 2 or 3 weeks and send it to Mr. Corcoran. And congratulations on
Thank
your
you.
new garage.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Great, thank you.
You good?
Sure.
We'll speak.
Thank you, Manny. You all set, Mr. Corcoran? Okay, great. We're going to call to order our second hearing of the evening. This is the application of American Green Building Construction Services, Inc. It's dated October 14, 2005, and the applicant here is seeking a special permit from the Board of Appeals, seeking to rebuild a 2-family home located at 244 Elliott Street in Milton after a fire occurred in the premises during October of 2013. The Milton zoning bylaw requires that pre-existing non-conforming 2-family dwellings which are destroyed by fire can be rebuilt within the existing height and footprint only if construction is commenced within 12 months of the fire. and that the reconstruction is completed within 24 months. This property is located in a Residence C zoning district. My name is John Leonard. I'm Chairman of the Board of Appeals. With me tonight, fellow board members Emmanuel Alves to my immediate right and Nick Gray to my immediate left. The rules of the board are going to be the same at the last hearing. We'll hear from the applicant, people who want to speak in favor, people who have questions, people who want to speak in opposition. We're tape recording the proceedings, so that would ask that anyone, before you speak, tell us your name and address, and speak up nice and clear and loud, so we'll have an accurate record of the hearing. In addition to the advertisement, which I just summarized, we have the application, which is dated October 14th, 2015. We also have a plan of land, a plot plan, prepared by Massachusetts Survey Consultants of Peabody, Massachusetts. This one is dated September 28th, 2015, and it shows the subject property and its position on the lot. We also have some renovation plans prepared by Designs by Oz, showing the subject property in multiple sheets. Looks like 5 sheets. Mr. Corcoran has also provided us with a, looks like an assessor's plan or a GIS data plan, probably from the assessor's office, showing the subject property and its relation to other properties. And we also have photographs of the subject property as well as several of the nearby properties. Mr. Corcoran has also provided us with his memorandum, which discusses the relief that's requested, his reasons why the relief of a special permit should be granted. So we thank Mr. Corcoran for those materials. As I indicated, the applicant is represented by Attorney Ned Corcoran of Quincy, Massachusetts, but a resident of the town of Milton. So welcome back to the Board of Appeals. You didn't go very far, Mr. Corcoran, but welcome back, and we're delighted to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Nice to be back again. This is an application, as you've described, to really restore a building that was destroyed by fire. And I think the most telling exhibit that I submitted is Exhibit 5, which is a photograph of the building depicting the building as it currently sits. It was substantially destroyed by fire on the second and third floors and needs to be restored. It could be restored today without a special permit to be a single-family dwelling, but it's historically been a non-conforming, a pre-existing two-family. Importantly, it is abutting on both sides by multifamily. To the left, it is a two-family, and to the right is a three-family. The immediate abutters are 2- and 3-family. I didn't cite, because Mr. Prondak's denial letter didn't specifically address the issue, but under Section 3B7H, a two-family dwelling can be converted, a one-family may be converted to a two-family by special permit if the dwellings on either side and are less than 100 feet on either side are already two families. So I think if this were an existing inhabited one-family dwelling, under that provision, again, 3A7H, they would be entitled to request a permit to convert to a two-family.
And that's a special permit?
It's a special
And
permit.
that's irrespective of any fire to the premises?
Correct.
So currently, it's occupied as, well, it's unoccupied.
It's unoccupied. It has been unoccupied since the fire.
Okay.
And there's been nothing done other than boarding it up to change it. So I have for the board, I do apologize. I'm joined by Tony Avallo and Dan Dennehy, who are representatives of American Green Building Construction Services, Inc. I have 4 letters. report to share with the board. One, two who are approximate and one further down on Elliott Street.
Okay, just let me identify these for the record, Mr. Corcoran. We have 4 letters of different dates. They're of the same text, and they're in support of the application to reconstruct the dwelling, to maintain it as a two-family dwelling, and on the basis that the two-family dwelling is in keeping with the historic character of the neighborhood and fits within the context of the immediate neighborhood. The first one is dated November 8th, 2015, and it looks like it's signed by the owner of 224 Elliott Street, Francis Granville and Paul, is it Kanuka, or, do you know his name?
I
It's
don't,
hard,
I
it's hard
can't
to
tell.
read. Okay, then we have another one that's dated October 30, 2015 by Richard Malmstrom of 228 Elliott Street in Milton. We have another letter dated November 8th, 2015. It looks like it's W. Stanton of 195 Elliott Street. And another supporting letter of November 5, 2015. Looks like it's Robert H., is it Stark? Do you know, Mr.?
Strunk.
Strunk of 247 Elliott Street. So we thank the citizens for
So-
submitting these letters.
Of those citizens, on Exhibit 4, which is an aerial taken from the town's GIS website, 247 is a lot that is directly across the street. That's the last letter. 228 is 4 houses down Elliott towards Central Square. The other 2 are just off of that. But it is a neighborhood with small pre-existing non-conforming lots, rather large houses, many of which are multifamily, including 238 and 250, as I said, which are on either side of the subject premises. And we're simply asking for permission to, a permit to restore what was there and the use that was there. I think that there is no, it is work that is absolutely necessary to get done, and done as soon as possible, and would not have a detrimental impact on the neighborhood if allowed to resume its use as a two-family as it's historically been used. And with that, I'll open it to questions.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Did the applicant own the subject property at the time of the fire?
No, they purchased it within the last 6 months.
And does the applicant have any, obviously, the applicant is a licensed builder.
Correct.
And does the applicant have any building experience in Milton that you can tell us about, generally speaking?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Dan Dennehy, so I do not have any direct construction in Milton. I've been in real estate management and construction for over 20 years. I worked with the Commissioner, Joe Prondak, when he was the building inspector in Quincy on numerous projects. So I certainly am familiar with him and what he requires, but I haven't done anything. This would be my first project in Milton.
Oh, welcome to Milton. That sounds great. Let me see if my colleagues have any questions. Mr. Gray?
So you want to make it back into a two-family house. It was a two-family house before. And did I hear you say, Attorney Corcoran, that you could have built a single-family house without coming to the board?
He could get a building permit tomorrow to restore it as a single family.
Single family. But what am I trying to get through here? If it were a single-family house, presumably the overall amount of money being able to be received would be less than if it were a two-family house.
Correct.
Correct, as far as the project's success rate goes. So that's one point. The other point is the individual units of a two-family house are likely to be less expensive than a single-family house is in total. Is that probably?
Each
Each
unit.
each individual unit, so that you could argue that not only is it in keeping with the character of the other houses in the neighborhood, but it does help to keep that neighborhood more affordable than it would if you would built, the granting of this permit will help make it more affordable housing, is what I'm trying to say, in town, which I know is a constant issue at town meeting, so.
I think that's a good point. That is,
And, you know, the lots in that part of town are, as you point out, quite small, but, and you're not exceeding the current footprint or anything like that, right? So, you're not increasing the encroachment, if that's, closer to any of the lot lines. It looks to me from the map that you provided from the town's website, that reconstructing this house within its original boundaries will be consistent with other houses in the neighborhood. I mean, certainly no worse than, I don't mean worse in terms of the houses, but I mean how close they are to the lot line is in keeping with the rest of the neighborhood.
yes.
All right, those are the questions I have so far.
Mr. Alves, please.
Just a point of clarification to pick up on something Nick asked. So this will be rebuilt within the existing footprint and height of the former property?
Correct.
So if you were here within 12, if you were intending to build within 12 months of the fire, you wouldn't need to come before us.
Correct.
You could have done it as a matter of right. I have no further questions.
I just have one question. It's probably a silly question. But do you intend to restore the existing first floor of this, or the one apartment of this and then build a second on top of it? Or are you gonna, or you're not gonna knock down the building?
No.
And construct a new building?
Correct. So we're just, everything, the entire structure is still gonna stay the same. We're just going to clean up the outside, kind of patch where, you know, the fire kind of burned holes into the exterior and so forth, and then just an entire new inside. You know, the floors are gonna still stay the same, window lines, all of that's all gonna stay the same. So it's really just cleaning up a damaged structure, so that's going to look brand new in the exact same footprint that it was.
And the architectural features of the improved two-family dwelling will be consistent with what you have here in
Absolutely.
In the photograph?
Yes.
That's great. I don't have any further questions. Let me ask, is there anybody present this evening who has any questions of the applicants or Mr. Corcoran? Is there anybody present this evening? And the answer to that is there was no questions. Is there anybody present this evening who wishes to speak in support of this application for a special permit? And there's no such person present. And the last question, is there anyone present this evening who wishes to speak in opposition to this application for special permit? Okay, there's no such person present. So, Mr. Corcoran, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think I'll rest. Quit while I'm ahead.
Okay, that's usually a good idea, but most lawyers won't. They want to say something else. Mr. Alves, you want to let me formally close the public hearing on this. We'll discuss the merits of the application here and now and vote on the application. So, Mr. Alves, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Corcoran. I think it's fair to say that the existing structure is an eyesore. It's probably having an adverse impact on nearby properties. And so improving it meets with the approval of all the neighbors. And I see that the two neighbors to either side of the property have signed a letter in support of the application. As I noted in my question, we're only here because of a timing issue. This could have been built as a matter of right if the construction had begun within 12 months of the date of the fire. It was well presented. I think the applicant has made the case. I don't think this will be a detriment or have any adverse impact in the area. I'd be inclined to vote in favor of the special permit.
Mr. Gregg.
For all the reasons that Mr. Alves said, I would also vote in favor of restoring the house and granting the special permit.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. I think the application was well presented. The photographs are compelling. The plans show the renovation and the restoration of the house is going to be really a dramatic improvement to the neighborhood, and So I say to American Green Building, welcome to Milton, and we're thankful you're relieving this particular community of this eyesore, because a lot of nasty things happen to buildings when they're left in this condition. So I wish you all the best with your project. All those in favor of granting the special permit, say aye.
Aye.
So congratulations on your special permit.
Thank you very much.
I think you may be in a slightly different position from the applicants at the first hearing, who are waiting till the spring before they do their wonderful six-car garage project. You probably want to get into the ground fairly quickly, do you not?
We do,
Yes.
just because of the
Close it up.
areas that are exposed to the elements, they're open, we'd like to be able to start closing it up and focus on inside when it gets to be cold in the winter.
Okay,
Yes,
well,
so-
I think you can talk with Mr. Prondak, whom you probably know very well, so he has a lot of discretion as to what type of closing up or improving, providing security for the property that you can do while the special permit's being prepared by the board. But we'll do our very best to try to crank this out within, 10 days or something like that. And then you need, obviously, Mr. Corcoran will tell you, but you need 20 days as an appeal period. But you can deal with Mr. Prondak in terms of, sometimes he allows certain demolition to take place, but at your risk, because you don't have a final special permit. But we entrust Joe's discretion in that regard. But we'll do our best to get you the special permit out as fast as we can.
Great.
Okay, and good luck on your renovation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Mr. Corcoran, let us know when you're all set.
I'm all set.
You don't need a break because of the exhaustive schedule you've been put to tonight.
It's moving right through, it's great.
Okay, that's great. So let's call to order our third hearing of the evening. This is the 8 o'clock hearing, and it's on the application of PL Properties 3 LLC. The application is dated October 14, 2015. And here the applicant is seeking to build a new gable roof, which is described in the application, including several long shed dormers above the second floor of the existing single-family dwelling at 172 Brook Road, Milton. This residence is in a Residence C district, and the bylaw limits structures to 2.5 stories in height when the basement is considered a story, and in this instance it is. And likewise, the zoning bylaw requires that buildings be set back a minimum of 10 feet from the side lot lines. When, with this addition, the sideline would be 5.5 feet from the right side and 6 feet from the left side. And also the bylaw requires that the building be set back a minimum of 20 feet from the front property line. And under this application, the building would be set back 7.5 feet from the property line. I've summarized the advertisement. We'll have as evidence at the hearing the application, which is dated October 14, 2005. We have a denial letter by Joseph Prondak, our building commissioner. It's dated August 18, 2005. We have a plot plan of land by Antonino Land Surveyors, Inc. of Stoughton, Massachusetts, which is dated March 23rd, 2015, and it shows the subject property and its relation to the various sidelines. And we also have some plans, proposed dormers for 172 Brook Road by De Silveira Builders, Inc. of Dorchester, Massachusetts, in 4 sheets, and it shows the existing property, the proposed first floor on sheet A2, the attic framing plans on sheet A3, and the elevations in what the house looks like as improved from all of the various angles. In addition, like the last application, I think, Mr. Corcoran has supplied us with an aerial photograph of the subject neighborhood, and it also shows the subject property in particular as it relates to the other dwellings in the neighborhood. And we also have several photographs of the subject property and surrounding properties, as well as a historic photo showing what the property looked like back in the days of yesteryear. So we'll have all of those as evidence at the hearing. And we've also received from Mr. Corcoran, as usual, his addendum to the application. He sets forth the exhibits that he's filed with the board, describes the requested relief, sets forth the reasoning why he believes the special permit should be granted and the relief should be granted, in a conclusion. So with all of that being part of the record, Mr. Corcoran, welcome back to your continued presence before the Board of Appeals. We're delighted to hear from you.
Thank you. I am joined by Peter Lee, who was the principal in the applicant, and his assistant, sister. His sister.
And what is your name, ma'am?
Kathy,
Kathy. Sure. Welcome to the Board of Appeals.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members.
They are the recent owners. They purchased the property in February of this year and seek to restore it to its, as I think you determined, its former grandeur, as shown in the older picture. And that picture was taken, and it is of the Clark family. William Clark, who was the town's planner, grew up at 167 Brook Road, directly across the street. That is his mother, 2 of his sisters, and his brother. Can advertise his chiropractic services if we'd like. With Bob Clark, who's a chiropractor, is the young red-headed boy in the photograph. So taken roughly mid-1960s. Or 1965, as it's indicated at the top of the photo. It is a pre-existing, non-conforming, 2-family dwelling located on a substantially non-conforming lot, pre-existing lot. It is less than 4,000 square feet. It's barely room for a sidewalk, I think, on either side of the lot, given it's the setback. When it was damaged by fire in the 1990s.
No room for a 6-car garage.
Not in this property. They might be able to rent some space in the other one. But when it was damaged by fire, at the time, the roof was, they replaced it simply with a flat roof. And the flat roof, quite frankly, has been out of character with the rest of the neighborhood. Photograph of the houses on either side as they face out onto Brook Road. And obviously, the last is the photograph of the house as it previously existed. Just fortuitous.
When was the fire, Mr. Corcoran?
1994.
1994? And the flat roof was put on shortly thereafter?
Shortly thereafter.
And it was put on because of financial issues and not because of its architectural detail. Is that true?
I think that is substantially correct. I doubt they went around the neighborhood and and shared architectural renderings with the outcome. So I have letters of support. Including one from Mrs. Ann Clark, the mother, and the sister Lisa. Lisa is here, as is Bill Clark. May or may not speak as appropriate, but the Clark family, I think, is in support of the restoration. So as they look directly across the street, they see something that is a little more handsome than what they see now. The relief is several because of the many nonconformities. There's no, the plan is to simply replace the roof. There's no adjustment to the setbacks, either front or side, on either side. It will recreate an issue of a third story. Because as the town's bylaw is interpreted, when measured from a height of 5 feet around the area, it is more than 2/3 of the area of the floor below it. So I think it trips that by 96 square feet. Not a significant amount of additional area, but it does trip over the addition, and that is occasioned, I think, by the addition of the dormers, or the restoration of the dormers that pre-existed. And so it really takes it back to its former presence. I think with that, I would open it to questions, and I think with respect to the issue of hardship, I mean, given the nature that it's of the pre-existing, the undersized lot, and the need to really restore the property back to the way it really fits in the neighborhood, I think there's sort of a hardship to the neighborhood, if you would, associated with leaving this property sort of out of character with the other properties that are around it. And so with that, I'd leave it, open it to the board for questions.
Great, let me just take care of some housekeeping before we do that, Mr. Corcoran. We have letters in support of this application. The text of the letters is all the same, so I'll read one of them. To the Board of Appeals, I'm writing to support the application of Mr. Peter Lee for permission to restore the house at 172 Brook Road by removing the existing flat roof and replacing it with a gabled roof with dormers. I have seen Mr. Lee's plans and agree that its restoration is in keeping with its historic character, and it fits within the context of the immediate neighborhood. Thank you for your consideration. We have multiple letters. I'll just read off. Lisa Clark at 167 Brook Road submitted the letter of November 18. Ann Clark has submitted at also 167 Brook Road, November 18. On November 14, it looks like Jesse Conley, but I'm not sure of that, of 2 Columbia Park, number 1, supported the application, as did a Laura. I can't make out Laura's last name. She lives at 164 Brook Road in Milton.
Looks like Laura Cadet.
Thank you. Yes, that's exactly what it is. We have a letter of the 14th of November by the owner of 168 Brook Road, Milton. Is it Cooley or Uli or? Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Mr. Cook, maybe one of these times we can put right in print, so we'll be able to do this with a little more grace. We have a letter of November 14, 2015, from Mary and Gary, looks like Samancic, of 203 Brook Road, Milton, Massachusetts. We have
That's
one.
Simchuk.
Simchuk. Thank you. We have a letter of November 14, 2015. This is Laura Cadet, or not Cadet, Cadet.
I don't know the pronunciation.
Okay. 164 Brook Road. We have another one, November 14, 2015, from Joe McKenzie. And we have a November 14th approval by Albert Wallstorm, W-A-L-S, Wallshorn?
Wallstrom.
Wallstrom, could be, it is Wallstrom, 181 Brook Road, Milton, Massachusetts. So we thank all of these interested citizens for participating in the hearing tonight. Mr. Gray, do you have any questions of Mr. Corcoran?
I don't know if this is a question, but I just want to reinforce the concept here that this poor house is sitting with its roof chopped off when the two houses abutting it, am I right, Mr. You can confirm that my understanding is correct here. The two houses abutting it have their nice little gabled hats. And the subject property, I don't want to say it's been decapitated, but let's just say it doesn't have a roof that's visible from the street, right?
That's right.
So when you're, as far as the idea as to whether the variance that we're seeking to grant would be in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, certainly the immediate neighborhood, I think we can, fairly obvious that putting a similar scope gable roof back on would be consistent with the abutting houses, and in fact, get it something closer to it's the red house in this picture, isn't it?
That's right.
Right? And I would think that if you lived across the street from that house, you might prefer looking at it with, you know, a symmetrical or matching type house, look to them rather than remembering a house that used to have a roof on it that now is looking kind of miserable. So it is extremely close to the lot lines, but we're not seeking, from what you're telling me, we're not making it any worse than it currently is. We're merely trying to put it back to, when I say we, you're merely trying to put it back to what it was. Again, another victim of a fire. So, well, we're not to that point of the hearing yet, but I don't have any further questions, I think.
And I think just,
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Thank you.
Mr. Corcoran, please.
just quickly in response to that, if you look at Exhibit 3, which is the aerial photo taken from the town's GIS website, all of the houses in that immediate neighborhood have
Yeah.
multiple gables. There's a lot of variety to the roof lines, as you can see it from the aerial, and I think this one stands out as one that doesn't.
Yeah.
Mr. Alex, do you have any questions?
Just one, and I was looking to find this in the materials, and I probably missed it, but the proposed roof will be, in terms of height, will align with the abutting properties, right? You're not putting something that stands 20 feet above everyone else.
Correct.
Is that, okay, is that in the record someplace? Did I miss it? In terms of the total height relative to the abutting properties?
I don't think it's we didn't do an
Sort of comparison,
comparison.
but it'll be in line. I mean, it's not gonna sort of,
Yeah, if you look, I think if you look at the
Shoulder, head and
photographs
shoulders.
that Nick was pointing, you're really sort of bringing the gables up
to the
from
neighbor.
that line, and it's
Got it.
consistent with where the peaks of the roofs on either side are.
And we're not gonna have eaves that sort of extend, you know, you express how close in proximity these properties are to each other. It's sort of gonna have overflow going into the neighbors.
No, and in fact, if you look at sheet A4, which is the building plans,
Yeah.
the exterior elevations, there are
lines.
no real eave overhangs. Everything's
Overarching overhangs.
contained.
Got it. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay. I don't have any questions of Mr. Corcoran or the applicant. Let me see, is there anybody present this evening who has questions of Mr. Corcoran or the applicant? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, you're going to have to come up here because this is being televised and we can't pick up your voice back that far, so.
You're gonna be
why
on
don't you-
TV.
Yes, so smile and speak up nice and clear and loud.
My name is Eleni Papaconstantino, and my family owns the two homes on either side of the house. So needless to say, we're aware of the, ugly structure that's been there for a few years. My only concern was my questions, and this gentleman asked was if, when it's said and done, if, the roof is going to exceed above, or stay in line with the other homes, and also if the sides, the what's it called? The eaves. We're gonna come over over the side of the house. Because I was just looking at the plan, and on one of them, it looks like it comes out to the, there's a little part that sticks out. If you look at the front elevation picture on A4, it looks like the eave comes out to the end, but on the bottom right, it looks like it stops further in. So, on this picture here.
Yeah.
See how they come out to here, but down below, it looks like they're coming further in, so
I think
visually, I didn't
Yeah.
understand it, so I'm like, oh, which,
if you look at the photograph of the system, you can see how there is, along the front, there's an eave extension, but that
Softer.
there is a bump out on either side. You can see how from this, there's a bump out of either side.
Right.
It goes up both
Yeah.
sides, and so the eave comes back essentially to, looks like it's just about to that point. But certainly as it relates to the front, there is an eve appearance.
okay,
You
so,
see how in the photograph, there's a significant eve
Right there.
right,
on either side of the front, but that when you go back towards the middle of the house on either side, there's a bump out.
right,
And at that point, there's a little minimal overhang.
okay.
Not going out further than, I don't think, than what's already the
The-
line, the outside of the roof.
Of the roof. Okay, so it's not gonna be like an overhang with the 3 windows, like type of thing? Okay, yeah, and that was it, and just, that it was gonna, remain a 2-family and not a 3-family. That was kind of a concern of ours.
We're leaving it the way it is,
Yeah.
just redo the roof,
Yeah.
just to match up with your 2 sides.
Right, okay.
Great.
Thank you,
Thank you for coming tonight. We
Yeah.
appreciate your,
Thank you.
your questions.
thank you.
Let
Three
me,
families are prohibited unless they pre-existed.
yes.
Right.
Let me see if there's any person present this evening who wishes to speak in support of this application for variance. Mr. William Clark. Do you have any 1965 photographs with you, Mr. Clark?
Yeah, where were you when that photo was taken?
Don't know.
Welcome to the Board of Appeals, Mr. Clark. It's
Thank you.
always good to have you here.
Actually, I'll use my own address, 116 Ridgewood Road, Milton. I am speaking in support of 172 Brook Road, 2-family house. The design and the character of the house was destroyed by a fire in the mid-1990s. At the time, I was living at 167 when that fire took place. The owners of that house at that time sold the house to a builder who didn't have the means to restore it, thus the flat roof. Currently, the building has a flat roof that it absolutely makes it look unfinished. It did at the time, and it continues. Currently, the house has the ability to cause an adverse financial impact on the rest of the neighborhood housing stock. The new design and rebuild will be an asset to the housing character for the neighborhood. If there was one thing, I would back Tula's comment that the height of the building should not exceed what the 2 neighboring houses have. I do understand what Ned was talking about when he said that the roof does come out. The house has bay windows on each side. The roof comes out so that it's a nominal piece over those bay windows. Because the bay windows are set back, there is a bigger eave just on the corners of the house. So it's not that they really are big and stick out. They still stay within the same rectangle that it would make up the regular house. But I'm supportive of what they're trying to do to the house.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Is there anybody else present who'd like to speak in support of this application? Okay, the record indicates there's no such person present. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this application for variance? And there's no such person present, so, Mr. Corcoran, if you have nothing else to add, we'll close the evidence portion of the hearing and discuss this application in open session and vote on it here and now. So, Mr. Gray, please.
Thank you very much. Well, I would say that certainly the current condition of the house, the look of it, without its dormer roof on the top, certainly is not consistent with the other houses in the neighborhood. In fact, I was shocked when I saw the photograph, because I probably drive by this twice a day at least, and I hadn't really put it all together. The height thing is a little bit of a concern, but just in eyeballing the original picture and the drawings on A4, the elevations on A4, to my eyeball, they don't, the proposed new roof doesn't look substantially different from the size and scale of what's there. Now, it's not accurate to, it doesn't look like it's an extra half-story high or something. So it looks to be, I'm hoping, within the scale, but in any event, I think I would tend to support the application for variance.
Okay, Mr. Ellis, please.
I agree with everything Mr. Gray said. Mr. Corcoran, I know we closed the evidentiary part of the hearing, but would it be possible to get some sort of definite height for the proposed building? And I looked for it, and if it's already there, just point me to it.
Well, it's,
34
if you look on sheet A4,
Yeah.
the left,
Well, it's in relation to the abutting properties as opposed to a single number, right? That's what I meant to say, because that number didn't mean anything to me. It could be identical to the houses on either side. I don't think it's a big point. If everyone agrees, Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm inclined to vote in favor for this. I think there are unique factors that only apply to this property. I think that there's no adverse impact on the neighborhood. To the contrary, I think it'll be an improvement on nearby properties. And I think that there's enough of a showing of hardship. So I'd be inclined to vote in favor of the variance with perhaps a condition that this doesn't sort of dwarf nearby properties, that it's built to a height consistent with neighboring properties, if that's acceptable to the applicant.
Well-
it is certainly being built within the height limitations under the town's bylaw, but I think that it's at
Fair point.
34 feet. The town's bylaw does authorize 35 feet, but just as again, as Mr. Gray says, if you eyeball it, I think it's there, and we'd be certainly happy to provide that type of information to Mr. Prondak as part of.
Yeah, and again, I don't want anything too specific. Consistency is what we're looking for, I would think, that it's a height consistent with, not something that's like, sort of stands head and shoulders above nearby properties, I guess is.
Okay.
With that one comment, Mr. Chairman, I'd be in favor of
Well,
that.
I thought the application was well presented. I appreciate all the photographs and the historical evidence. I think it's very important. It's obviously a very, very nice neighborhood, and this house is really in need of rehabilitation. It's going to be an asset to the neighborhood here. I agree with Mr. Alves' concern. We do have the 35 height limitation already in the bylaw, so it can't exceed that. But rather than getting involved in specific delineations of height, it just seems to me that, looking at the plans, that if we put something in there, that the height will be reasonably consistent with neighboring, nearby properties on either side and the like. That should be reasonably, that should be adequate for our purposes. And I do think the plans that the applicant has submitted really show this will be a striking improvement to the neighborhood, and I'm very pleased to support this application for variance. So variance as So all those in favor of granting the relief with usual conditions that we have for variances, and a condition that the height should be reasonably consistent with nearby properties, so say aye.
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 So congratulations on your variances and
Congrats.
your project. Mr. Corcoran, do you want to tell us about building schemes?
In spring, sounds
Oh,
like
the spring, oh, that's wonderful, okay, that's great. So we'll take a couple of weeks to churn this out, and Mr. Corcoran will tell you what you have to do to record your variance and all of that, so. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you, Mr. Corcoran. Thank you. And thanks for all the neighbors for coming tonight, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So we'll stand in adjournment.